Why the Sun didn't flatten out due to its own rotation. Normally, with a sphere rotating around its own axis, the angular velocities omega of all mass particles in the body are the same everywhere. Therefore the tangential velocity at the equator, for example point A with radius r, is greater than that elsewhere, for example at point B with radius r. Therefore, the centrifugal acceleration at point A is greater than that at point B. This inevitably flattens a spherical sphere, especially for bodies that are not made of solid matter, such as the Sun. In reality, the Sun is basically not flattened. But why? Imagine that we were the servants of God and had received a task from Him to construct a celestial body that must not be flattened by its own rotation. It would not be an easy task. So that a body is not flattened by its own rotation, the centrifugal acceleration of each mass point in the body must be the same everywhere when rotating. We, the earthly people, are obviously not in a position to construct and build such a thing. But nature. And indeed, nature has created just such a mechanism, not inducing the rotation of the body using the conventional method of accelerating one at the edge. Instead, it causes every point in the body to accelerate with equal tangential force. This mechanism is called the grarotation. As we know, the tangential acceleration of each point in the grarotation is caused by overturning of the primal acceleration O. Therefore, the tangential velocity of each point of radius r is calculated as follows. This results in the centrifugal acceleration for any particle with radius r. It does not depend on the radius of the particle. Therefore, the centrifugal force of point A is equal to that of point B. This applies not only to point masses on the surface of the Sun, but to all masses inside the Sun as well. So the centrifugal acceleration of any point in the Sun is the same regardless of its radius. Therefore the Sun is not flattened. Therefore, the Sun is basically a round sphere. Otherwise it would have long since become a throwing discus or something similar.
The reason for the differential rotation. Non-solid objects like the Sun rotate faster at the equator than at the poles. This phenomenon is called differential rotation. We have already explained that the rotation of celestial bodies is caused by the grarotation effect. Then the question about the cause of differential rotation is not difficult to answer. If we consider the Sun as a celestial body consisting of many cylindrical mantles, the rotational angular velocity of the inner mantles of the Sun is faster than that of the outer ones due to the grarotation effect. But how can we explain that in reality the Sun rotates fastest at the equator? As we said before, the rotation of the planets around the Sun is driven by its rotating gravity. We call this the motor effect. And this motor effect also takes place inside the Sun. That is, the matters on the outside of the Suns are driven by faster rotating solar core. Due to the grarotation effect, the angular velocity of the inner mantles of the Sun is greater than that of the outer mantles. As a result, the outer cylindrical mantles are driven and accelerated by the inner mantles. And the inner mantles are slowed down by friction and the load of the outer mantles. There must then be a mantle whose velocity neither increases nor decreases, which we call the neutral mantle. The shape of all neutral points should therefore be that of a rugby ball. This rugby ball forms the core that drives the outer masses through the motor effect. The size of the motor effect depends on the size of the core mass. This is in the same way that the Sun's drive on the planets depends on the mass of the Sun. This means that the acceleration force of the motor effect is greatest near the equator. We also know that the Sun has an extraordinarily large core mass. This means that the speed of the Sun is even greater at the equator. At both poles, on the other hand, the masses inside and outside the neutral plane are almost equal, so that the effect of the motor effect is almost zero. This results in what is known as differential rotation. In this way, the Sun, which is actually round, becomes slightly flattened again.
Thank you very much for your attention. See you next time.